Hey guys, I'm going to talk about bridling our tongues. I live near horse kind of features, equestrian types with horses around me. So every time I drive home or drive to work, I see my buddies, the horses. And here in James chapter 3, it says, "For we all stumble in many ways. If anyone does not stumble in what he says, he's a perfect man, able to bridle the whole body as well." Well, it introduces the word bridle, and then it goes into, now if we put the bits into the horses' mouths, bit and bridle, that's that little bar that has hinges and has bars this way and then has leads, it says that we can put this little bit into a horse's mouth so that they will obey us. We direct their entire body as well. So, when I was a young boy, I had the privilege of getting to go horseback riding up in the mountain areas, Southern California, where I was raised. And the ranch hands would show us, suburban kids that weren't, from that world, just how to, the horses were gentle and they were kid friendly and so forth. They were huge, when you're a little 8, 9, 10-year-old person, the horses, they got to hoist you up to get up into the stirrups, But it says, look at the ships also. It's interesting because I got to ride horses and I routinely got to look at ships because I lived on Mission Bay and then I lived by the harbor during the Vietnam War. So I saw battleships, I saw submarines, I saw aircraft carriers, small, medium, and large PT boats. I saw all these amazing vessels, the Navy's finest, And then we also had our own ski boats, so we had one in the driveway. So I could look at the boats, and they are so great and are driven by strong winds and are still directed by a very small rudder, a very small rudder. Now, this is talking about the tongue. So if you, just while we're doing this, you just stick your tongue out and just think about how small it is relative to your feet, your legs, your trunk, your arms, your head, your whole body. It's such a small part, and yet it's so impactful. The speech center that's attached of our brain that's attached with our tongue. Yeah, our tongue has taste buds and we taste with it, but it's a means by which we communicate. I was holding one of my little new grandsons. I have 2 brand new little sweet grandsons, and when the parents came over for a visit, so I got to hold him for a little while. And I was talking to him, and he smiled at me, made me feel like $1 million, and a little dimple I noticed on his right cheek. And then he started trying to speak, and his dad overheard it, said, "Yeah, he's been trying to talk," or no, mom said, "He's trying to talk. He's been trying to talk." And just even, weeks old. And it's because that's how we're made. And it says the tongue is a small part of the body, and yet it boasts of great things. See how great a forest is set aflame by such a small fire. Death and life is in the power of the tongue, Solomon wrote in Proverbs. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 12, verse 37, that by your words you shall be justified, and by your words you shall be condemned. So words have power. And if we don't bridle our tongue, like it says in James, the 1st chapter, it says, if anyone thinks himself to be religious or spiritual or, a person of faith, and yet he or she does not bridle their tongue. See, he says it in chapter 1, then reiterates it again in chapter 3. This is actually very important thing throughout the Bible, Old and New Testament. One of the standout healing verses was in Matthew chapter 8, where a centurion Roman soldier goes up to Jesus, says, man, I've been watching you heal, and my servant is sick at home. And Jesus said, well, I'll go to your house and I'll minister to him. And he said, I'm not even worthy for you to come to my house. Then he says something that's breathtaking. He said, just speak the word only and my servant will be healed. And Jesus was so pleased with that. And I feel like there is, for Baptists, for Methodists, for Lutherans, for Episcopalians, for Catholics, for non-denominational, all Christians need to understand this. Jewish people understand this. Even secular people understand this. Words have power. Words, like there's so many phrases. Loose lips sink ships was one of the bylines of urging people to be secretive during the war in World War II. I heard a stupid fallacy. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Well, I think they were trying to counter the power of words, but words are powerful. You know, Lincoln, he must have been, he was one of the most effective leaders and also one of the most hated. And when John Wilkes Booth, the coward actor, shot him in the Ford Theater, the back of his head with a pistol, they found on Lincoln's body, I think, a crumpled up positive news article that he had clipped and he had kept. And then I think also, if I'm not mistaken, a note from somebody that was encouraging. He was that's what he was holding to in the midst of all the hate. So let's speak the truth in love. Let's speak God's word out of our mouth. Let's speak what we want to see out of our circumstances rather than affirming all the negatives. Now, I'm not using mind over matter. I'm not using the words for denial. I'm saying words actually are proactive items that can instill hope or can stir up fear. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Christ. I believe fear comes by hearing too, and hearing by the word of the bad report. So let's speak in the direction of encouragement, faith building, fear eliminating, vision producing, stimulators that help people. Let's consider how to provoke one another to love and good deeds. Here's a good verse I'll close with. I think this is really something we need to consider every day. And that is, let no unwholesome word proceed from your mouth. It says in Ephesians 4:29. Let no unwholesome. So if there's an unwholesome word, then there's a wholesome word. Oh, well, I try not to cuss. I don't use those 4-letter words, Pastor Jeff. Okay. But unwholesome words would be, there are giants in the land. They're cheating on the election. They're manipulating, whatever jolts there are. It's like, okay, yes, but nevertheless, the firm foundation of the Lord stands. God will work it together for good. And it says here, but only such a word, the only words we should let proceed out of our mouth are words that are good for edification according to the need of the moment, so that it will give grace to those who hear. We're going to talk more about this tomorrow, but I think there's a word that we could have. Isaiah said, the Lord has given me the tongue of the disciple or of the learned. This is what we're learning, to bridle our tongue so we could have the tongue of the learned, the tongue of the disciple, so that we may know how to give a word to the weary. We could strengthen. It could be strengthening rather than depleting. It could be lifting rather than belittling. It can be hopeful rather than depressing. I pray God uses you to consider how to provoke others to love and good deeds with the words of your mouth. God bless you.